This is Show versus Business, where pop culture meets pop money. We host the real Theo Harvey and Mr. Benja. So, Mr. Benja, what's been going on?
I can't stop laughing. I'm starting the show laughing because you made me laugh before we got online, and now I can't even remember what we were laughing about, but it's still funny in my head, so I'm laughing. This is the kind of weirdness happens when you've been friends with somebody for decades now. It's just anyway, to the show. I'll remember the joke in a minute. Hey man, we got Avatar, Last Bender, Airbender came out live action. People are talking about it. People are comparing it to the old movie. People are comparing it to the cartoon. And there's just some discourse going out there. And we got to talk about it. Got haters, got lovers, got people wanting the past back. And hey, there's representation in there too. So good little topic. Speaking of good little topics, Cat Williams went on Joe Rogan. We talked about Cat Williams blowing up the internet a while back. This is different. I Speaking of conspiracies, I got some conspiracy thoughts on this. This is an interesting interview. Not not the best, but interesting. And Instagram. I have a little revelation on Instagram. I just want to share it with you. We're not gonna spend too much time on that one, but I'll bring it up. The gurus are all out there using AI tools. That's on the docket today. And the death of coding, according to NVIDIA's CEO, is coming. Interesting. And speaking of AI, Google's out there being comically woke. I don't even like to use the word woke anymore, and I just did. But yes, and Google's doing some silly stuff with this new Gemini AI. If you type in "show me pictures of Nazis," they'll give you like Native Americans and stuff. It was weird. Anyway, that's what we got to talk about, and some streaming war stuff if you want to get into that. That's actually more than I thought we had for this week, Theo. How does it sound?
Oh, man. You know me. I'm always excited about the week and what we discuss every week. Mr. Benja, man, are you super excited about Dune? The late
No,
movie.
I am not because I don't care to watch it on the big screen. Old boy says for these movies, I'll be just fine watching it on my tablet or my phone if I have to get that bad. I don't care.
So, Mr. Benja, I braved the elements and went out there and saw Dune 2 on the big IMAX screen. Denis Villeneuve, I think that's how you pronounce it, director of Dune, Blade Runner, Arrival, great director.
Yes,
And
yes.
he's just super excited about Dune. Matter of fact, there's rumors this is going to be a trilogy. So I saw the first one, Mr. Benja, and I get why people all hype about it. Came out in 1965, about over 10 years before the book itself, excuse me, came out
Mhm.
1965, about 10 years or so before Star Wars. So there's a lot of good stuff in there in Dune. And also it's just more complex stories. I get it, it's sci-fi, but it's a little weird sci-fi to me, right? Well, I think I like my sci-fi a little bit more simplistic, and that's why I'm maybe a Star Wars fan. But I get it. I get it. I get what they're doing with Dune. So we don't have to get into the discourse of what Dune's all about here, but maybe we'll do a Dune episode if the people want it. But yeah, so I went ahead and seen Dune 2, and it's weird. It's this Dune 2 is a weird movie because it's the most weirdest sci-fi. If you watched the 1984, we talked
Yeah.
about this before. 84 movie is weird, and this one's weird. You got sand snakes, you got these crazy groups. You got this thing called Spice and this planet called Arachnus, and you got this Messiah prophecies, and you got these women who are witches who are controlling things behind the scene. It
Yeah.
just got a lot of little stuff in there. And but mixed with that, this is like high Hollywood. They got the new stars of Hollywood, the Timothy Chalamets, the Zendayas, this Austin Butler guy who got Academy nomination for Elvis. All these cats used to be like Disney stars. We saw
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
grow up on TV, and now they're pushing them to the next generation to movie them. And this is like their first big kind of movie, and they're coordinating. These are your stars in this weird ass fi movie. So it's just weird, man. So it's like, who is this for? I don't know if you saw some of the social media posts. It has Zendaya out there giving looks, man. She was like dressed in everything you
So
can imagine.
you know what? I've been just like checking out fashion lately, not like really getting into it like I used to be, but I keep my eye on the fashion scene, and I kept seeing Zendaya show up, and I think she might have been the only reason Dune was even on my mind because the starfish looking popcorn bucket, that's my grab the popcorn imagery. That
Yeah.
that suspect popcorn bucket made me turn off from Dune. I was like, "All right, whatever." But now we got Zendaya out there, and I was like, "Hmm, oh yeah, Dune's coming out. Oh yeah." So for the
It
people who are
works.
always looking out for the stars and the actors and the fashions, it works because it worked on me.
It's just funny. This is like they're trying to Hollywood's trying hard, right? They got to get new stars in here. You got the Tom Cruises and the Denzel Washington. Remember, we talked about this. The latest, the most popular stars are all in their like 50s and 60s now. And so there's this big gap. They haven't really created new movie stars. So now they're trying to get these 20-year-olds into all these different movies and push them more. And so this is an interesting phase. Personally, I think it might be a little too late because I think, a lot of these kids, a lot of these people, like my kids, know who Zendaya is, right? They grew up watching her on Disney Channel and some of these other actors, but I don't think kids care about movies. So
No,
I don't think it's cool for us. You're like, okay, that used to be the little kid, but it's really hard when you see the actor grow up as a kid. Maybe that was like some other actors too back in the day, but then they're doing like sex scenes or something mature. I don't know if I want to watch that.
has that ever happened to me? I wanna say it has, but I can't think of the moment where I was just like,
Zendaya, cute girl, beautiful woman, but it's just I can't see her in a sex scene. I seen her on Shake It Up, or when she was 12 years old in Disney Plus. Yeah, I was just like, "Ugh, I can't watch this." So anyway, I digress. But Dune 2, definitely visually stunning, as you can imagine. A lot of money went into this, and interesting storyline about political unrest and what does it mean to fulfill prophecy and all that. But I thought it was just a little too repetitive at times. You're just in the sand a lot.
yeah,
It is a desert planet, but just like overly too much. But definitely, if you like movies, this is visually stunning. He even has a whole black and white segment when you're in the stadium, and it's just like black and white. And he took it old school. It's just a little mix of flair, and then people giving even the outfits are like high fashion.
yeah.
So it's like the storyline is complex, the visual template is complex. So it's okay. This is a blockbuster now. So I get it. It may not be for me.
Listen, I get flamed for this kinda stuff because I'll say something like, "Oh, no, I wouldn't wear that, but it looks fine on you. It looks fine on you." I'll say stuff like that, and people will think I think they dress bad or something. I'm like, "No, it's just not my thing." And I don't people just don't express that kind of stuff. So when I'm looking at Dune, I'm like, "Oh, no, this is quality. I see how it's well constructed, nicely made. It's got this and that going for it. Very strong with the visual representation and the storytelling between moving shots in a frame and the way just all this stuff." I'm like, "Okay, that's very cool." I don't care. I don't wanna see it. It's just like, after the first Dune, I was like, "Wow, that was cool." But it's just not my thing. Like, I like it on paper, and I actually think the story itself is cool. But, yeah, the whole, Disney vibe on it it's great quality stuff, not for me.
The analogy I like to think is, okay, let's say you have all these little knobs you can turn on the movie, right?
Right.
You can have the color palette, you the visual representation. Oh, I'll turn that to 10. But then the characters are like 7 or 6. Or you have the fashion sense, it's like a 5 or 6. But oh, the sound, I'm gonna turn that to a 10. It's gonna be, oh, we're gonna hear some great sounds. It's like Dune, they turned every dial to 10. It's like the sound, the visual template,
Yeah,
the characters, the complexity. It's like everything's just a 10. You're like, oh my God. The storytelling, there's characters here, there's characters in this corner. He's flying around. He's a big bloated dude, the
yeah,
Baron, and flown around. He's sunk in mud. He's killing people. You got fights. You got like people. It's coming out the sand, attacking. It's yes, it's too much. Can we turn one thing down on the dial? Just
yeah.
maybe having more simplistic storytelling, or maybe just
So, you know what? Usually you try to go very, very broad with a lot of you're picking up a lot of things, or you're going very deep. Like, you only pick one little aspect, like the character dialogue, the political backstory intrigue, or whatever, and you go down that hole, and everything else suffers and bends its will to that one thing.
Mhm.
But when you have multiple things really hitting on a extreme level, it's hard to, I don't want to say process, but it's just hard to say, "Hey, what's this about?" And you're like, "Hey, it's just a lot. It's a lot."
That's
It's
Dune
like
in a nutshell.
it's like
Hey, it's
I,
just a lot. It's just a lot.
I went to
It was a
dinner.
lot in
It
'84. It was
was
a lot in
yeah,
'84. Imagine now.
yeah,
It was a lot in '84, and so now here we are in 2024. It's a lot.
yeah.
So
So,
anyway, but I liked it, but it's definitely complex for a weird blockbuster movie.
hmm. Yeah, it's funny. There were these. I'm watching these reactors go through Game of Thrones, and they're talking about. They're not analysts of shows. They're not reviewers, but when they watch it, they're the Octobers, by the way. When they're watching, they pick up on all this little stuff. Like, hey, you notice how they're using all the outfits and like this and that? Yeah. Did you notice he just threw his outfit down and put on a cloak and never put that first outfit on again? I was like, oh, there's just all kinds of stuff going on in that show that I didn't think of. Very detail oriented.
Except for the last season.
Oh, right.
They just threw all that out the window. All that could
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a Starbucks cup in it. Who cares? No one's gonna watch it. The last season, they threw all that complexity out. Well, yeah, I think when you're doing a series, though, yes, the Dune was. I think it's better for a series. It's so complex that yeah, you can spread
Mm,
that out. You can let stuff breathe more because they introduced the Sting character, right, the Baron's nephew, right,
yeah.
in this movie in the Dune 2. I want to see more of him, his backstory and all that, but he basically pops up in like maybe 3 scenes, and then let's sit in that, and it's still a long movie. It's like almost 3 hours, but I think Dune is better. It's so complex that it's better maybe as a TV show, in my opinion. And they
Like
did something like that, like an Avatar or
Andor.
yeah, even Andor. That goes to show you, man. So, but see, Andor did the reverse, right? So it's like
Okay.
Star Wars is simplistic
Okay.
story, right? Movie blockbuster. We all get it. Young farm boy becomes the savior of the galaxy. But then Andor went back in and just found the complexity. Like, how do they make the Death Star? There's one little piece on the Death Star. And who are those people? And how do you build a rebellion? And now is making Star Wars more rich. And maybe that's the better approach. Create a blockbuster that's easily digestible and then go in. Or even the thing about the MCU, right? They have the complexity of the comic books over what 60, 70 years of
Okay.
comic books, and then they condense it down to something that's digestible in the movie. Because I don't think complexity
Okay.
is it's hard to do complexity when you turn all the dials up to 10. You can do complexity in movies, but it's got maybe be one. Like for instance, if you've seen Arrival, right? I don't know. Did you see that movie? Didn't
Yes.
Dennis
Yes. I saw.
did about the aliens that come in? Everything was a stable. Nothing was turned up to 10. The only thing that was turned up to 10 was the concepts of time travel, and that made it easily digestible. Tenet is borderline, right? Because it's like they turn up the time travel and they turn up the action. I know I'm going after your sacred cow here. It's a borderline, but
Yeah. Yeah.
with characterization, come on, that was down. Do we even know what the protagonist's name was? No. Do we care?
No. Yeah. Exactly.
If he was the protagonist and he was out here shashaying and being extra, you're like, oh, okay, this is too much. And you got the whole time trap and all that kind of stuff. It'd be too much. So anyway, uh, thanks for having this conversation, Mr. Benja, and thank you guys for listening because I think this is it's helping me brainstorm my ideas of why Dune didn't sit well with me. And I think it's really about complexity and storytelling. And some formats may not be used to having that much complexity across all the different levels, if that makes sense.
Well, and we've studied storytelling, and this goes into just even talking to a person. You walk up to them and you're like, "Hey, man, Joanne got fired," and that's your story. That's where you, bam, Joanne got fired. Oh gosh, what happened? And you start talking, or you can come in because if you're really not friends with Joanne, and be like, "Man, I've been worried about my job. What happened? Joanne got fired." Da, da, da. But the stories, same elements, but the stories about you feeling bad about work or whatever. Yeah, when I'm hearing all these things, it's wow, this keeps coming back to storytelling, a narrative, sales funnels, putting one thing in front of the other. We were talking about Dan Sullivan last week, and I've done a podcast, basically deep dive rabbit hole thing with not just him, but I'm starting to realize some of the value in these podcasts. If Alex Hormozy shows up on someone's podcast, then you look to see who that guy's connected to, see what other podcast guests he has. Who is this person that he had on a couple episodes before, like Alex Hormozy? Because none of the dogs show up unless there's somebody before them that shows up that kind of validates it usually.
Mhm, mhm.
So I see Hormozy, I go back a few and say, "Hey, who is this? Who is this Hala person? Young and profiting. Okay, whatever." I look her up, and she's got like this podcast hack game on lock. She used to work for Hot 97. She's not famous, but she's just like putting it out there. And I'm like, huh. I go through her interviews. I find out that she's running David Shan's podcast business.
Didn't know that.
And I was just like, because he had his own thing going, and she came in and was like, "Hey, I can run this for you." So they partnered up, and now his podcast is hitting more people, doing more reach, sounding a little bit more official. I don't know if I like it sounding more official,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, it's a whole thing. So yeah, going through podcasts and finding out the stuff they talk about in podcast is golden, man. I'm like finding out these people are just dropping nuggets all the time. It's fascinating that I don't know how many people are seeing the power of this thing where you're just finding like these conversations that you wouldn't have heard anywhere else.
And I think that's the beautiful nature of like long form content now, right? It's like there's no middle anymore, just like movies. You either have TikTok short version or you got these long 3-hour podcasts, right? You can deep dive in. And we know about this is too. It's hard to have deep conversations and not spill secrets because that's what you know. You
Yeah,
can't just be making stuff up on the fly. You thought about this while you sitting in the car. You're like, man, I gotta get this off my chest. So you write it down, and or so intimately it becomes part of you. So to your point, yeah, podcasts are always dropping game, and I love to listen to those and see what nuggets can pop up out of it. Yeah, there's a lot of value out there, man. People just have to go find it, and then you spend more time looking for good content instead of I could be guilty of this with the I'm just tired. I just want to watch some entertainment and just, shut my brain off. But
yeah,
I really push myself to listen to podcasts and get some nuggets. It's like you fishing. And like I listened to, we'll talk about it in a second, but I think I pointed at you. I listened to one of Frank Kern's webinars. I said, I know he's selling what he's trying to sell, but this is some good shit. I'm like,
yeah,
go ahead and in fact, I had signed up so I could get the replay so I could just listen to that again and make sure I captured all he was saying. I said, okay, I think I could implement that. So yeah, so there's nuggets everywhere. I agree, and we just have to go find them.
well, you want to roll into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So yeah, I remember talking to you about Rainmaker. I thought it was interesting what Frank Kern was doing a while ago. And you hit me back with something that Dan Henry's doing. What's so basically these AI guys, these gurus, marketing gurus, are using AI to make their funnel systems much more responsive and human through the use of AI to get you to buy their products. Oh, you're interested in the product. You like this or this? I like the second option. Very cool. Hey, check this out. Go here. And it's a human like sales interface for the most part. That what I'm seeing. That's what I saw from Frank Kern. And you said some other people are doing the same thing. So now what are these other people trying to do?
Yeah, yeah. To your point, yeah. Credit to you. You say, hey, go check out Frank Kern stuff, and so I did his little IG chat bot, and I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty interesting. And then forgot all about it. And then I started joining Dan Henry's get clients at university type project and say
Mhm.
what he's doing. And then one of his pitches, once he has you in his ecosystem, right, to go sell you something else. It's just FYI. We're just no, hey, don't hate the game. Don't hate the game. So anyway, so he sold me on this thing. We create this whole system, this software for you, and we'll do all these automations and create these funnels for you. Which is true to a bit, but there's a lot of customization you still got to do, right, for your audience and all that. And so that's what I've learned through their help. And they have other things. I was able to start create my own kind of funnel system. So I learned a lot. And one of them is this AI bot that he created. Now, look, it's just automation that kind of tags as the chat GPT to make it more fluid. But what they're selling is my knowledge of marketing. My brain is powering behind the logic of the AI, right? What questions to ask, why to ask in that way, what words to say. And so that's what they're pitching. Frank Kern, Dan Henry, all these guys, because what they're saying is, look, instead of just buying a $20,000 course or mastermind from me or $2,000 course, just buy my software and you can automate me into your system. And which is I thought was yes, I think that's where they're trying to go, right? They're all trying to create some kind of software-based system, and all they're doing is white labeling a system called Go High Level. I don't know if you have you heard of that software?
Yes, yeah. Billie Jean uses it.
Yep. Yep. And the rumor is Frank Kern is using it, Dan Henry. I think a lot of gurus are starting to use that now. So that's like the next level ClickFunnels, right? It's like everybody saw how much money Russell made from ClickFunnels. They said, man, we need to do our own thing. And so Go High Level came out. And I think a lot of these guys, these gurus may put some money into it too. They may have some back end stuff. Go High Level is like the next generation of funnel creation for like agency owners. If you're a marketing agency helping people get leads and stuff, it's supposed to be all in one where you create your funnel system, you can send your nurture campaigns, your emails out, everything all, and now this automation piece, right? And so that's what they're selling, this kind of white label system to cohort. So now they're not looking at just getting one-time money from their folks with courses and things like that. They're trying to get recurring revenue. And so
Yep.
this is the vision. So I say all this say is they're okay. Be honest with you, Mr. But nothing earth shattering. Let's be honest. They're marketers, right? They're not product guys. I think Alex Hormozi, I think I sent you that link about Alex Hormozi saying all these marketers think they're gonna make software. Forget it.
Yeah.
He's not wrong because
Yeah.
moving to software solution, and it is one of those things that I think these gurus are starting to learn because and software doesn't work right. You gotta have support, all that stuff. So this whole go high and low action with these guys is what they're trying to do. But it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I'll be honest with you, Mr. Ben. I heard rumors. But I sent you a podcast right before this. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it. But Ben Thompson, he's that guru, Shachekari. He was doing a session, and we'll talk about that probably later about AI in Hollywood. But he said, look, I get these gurus are trying to show their value and all that stuff and give you tools to help you use
Right,
your
right.
Facebook ad, all that. But Facebook eventually is going to put that intelligence inside their own system and it's going to create the ads for you with the right marketing messaging. Because they already know what kind of messaging is going to get Mr. Benja to
Yeah.
click. As an ex former game designer, current artist, I'm trying to sell Mr. Benja on some software. They're like, no, don't do it this way, do it this way. And the AI is already going to know. So I do feel like these gurus are trying to stay ahead of the curve before everything drastically changes, in my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's funny, like you said, Alex realized he's not a product guy. And last week we were talking about Kanye West, and it's funny. I need to start like because I keep my marketing stuff separate from my creative stuff if I'm ever actually going down a rabbit hole or whatever. But I think I need to start keeping a like almost a swipe file of things that were really creative, artistic, and cool that people did that covers all of the marketing stuff that I'm looking at, all of the sales and branding stuff I'm looking at. Like Kanye West just did a new ad on his, and by the way, he's fascinating as a creative to follow. If you want to get at me about liking him or disliking him, flame me in the comments, please.
Oh,
But
they
he did,
flamed me, Mr. Benja. They flamed me. I said Taylor Swift owes her career to Kanye West. I loved it. I loved it. They came after me. I was like, I told my team, run it anyway. They said, you should go run it.
run
I
it.
don't care.
You're that
And
guy.
guess what? We got the most views on my personal channel and on the short in a while. And we got like about 10 followers. So man, that stuff works. I hate to say it. Enragement increases engagement.
Man, dude, Neil Patel just put something out that had everybody raging at him. And it was, yeah. At the it's funny, at the very, he basically listed out a kind of scammy, weird, some would say gross marketing tactic. And at the very end of it, he's, but hey, it works. And at the
And it
end,
did.
yeah, at the end of it, everybody starts flaming him. Like, I don't believe you're saying this. And some people are like, he's just telling the truth. And I was like, I wonder how many people caught the fact that he used that exact tactic in that thread that he posted, and at the end actually really hooked you just the way he said you should. So I don't know. But yeah, that's funny stuff, man. I love it.
So anyway, if you want to see something funny, go look at Frank Kern's Young. Had me cracking up, Mr. Benja.
What is this? He's got this weird blog of when he used to be like a
Scroll.
surfer.
I did not know. I did not know, man.
Oh, you didn't know he
This is
looked like
funny.
that?
Nah, I didn't know this guy until maybe you told me about him. Then I started seeing all this stuff. I
Oh,
think because I had signed up somewhere, and yeah, I didn't know that this is what this guy looks like. It's
so
hilarious.
here's the
Back in
thing.
the day, now he doesn't look like that now.
He was actually in San Diego at the same time with Frank Kern, La Jolla, San Diego, to be specific. And I was down there too. So I know that area, and they would have these little conventions and stuff. I'm like, what is this? This is way before I even got into this whole game. But I was like, oh, okay. Those two and Billie Jean and a bunch of others were all down there in that whole little
Who you said
ecosystem.
Frank Kern? Who was in there at the same time?
Frank
Was that
Kern, Grant Cardone,
Grant Cardone?
Billie Jean, um, and a couple others, I can't think of at the time. The
And back then, they were just mostly doing like these weekend webinar, weekend, you know, conferences, right? You would come into a hotel or to a convention and
Yeah,
meet with them, right? Yeah,
mhm.
that was the game back in the day. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, San Diego, it's like the perfect weather and everything for those kinda events, and yeah, it was a big deal, but I saw Frank Kern on one of his videos. He's, like, out here in La Jolla, and he panned around his office and out into the street. I was like, "I recognize that street. Holy crap." I had lunch, like, a block down there from there.
That small world, yeah, yeah. So, like I said, man, it's the game is to be what sold, not told. But you start realizing like these games, and like you said, they all you talked about like the David Shan connection, this other podcaster, and then Alex Hormozy, and I told you about his connection to Russell Brunson, and of course to Myron Golden. You start
Yeah,
realizing they all kind of were in the same area at the same time, going to the same masterminds, and now they're like at this level. Now, this next generation is coming up. I'm going to be curious to see. We talked about that Hollywood, right? There's this
yeah,
whole next generation of internet marketers. What
mhm.
are they going to start doing
They're
to
they're
kind of get to the
defining
next level? Yeah.
minor point, there's a name for it. If you run across it, let me know because I totally forgot the name for it. But it's when you get a confluence of energies from the same type of people and they end up defining something for the generation or even for all time after that.
Mm.
And it happened with the Stradivarius violin people. There were a bunch of people in the same region making violins for all these concerts and concertos, and they started to get a certain sound, and it became a thing. And basically, Stradivarius, that was the name that reigned supreme. But there was a whole bunch of other violin makers and cello makers and instrument makers and all that. There's a whole name for that kind of thing when a bunch of people get together in a maelstrom of creativity or whatever.
Man, and real quick too, that's why I like being an entrepreneur. Is I was in corporate America for 20 years, so it's like I was in a block of ice. You made moves inside your little ecosystem, but
Yeah,
you weren't really making moves. It's just inside. So
a
and God
block of
forbid
ice.
that. But think about it.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, I'm doing marketing because I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And every now and then you get one little idea that changes the game inside your corporate, right? Structure. But once let's say you kicked out of corporate structure, you out in this world again, you're like, man, those skills I had back in corporate America, they didn't mean crap. And that's
yeah,
what I've been realizing. I was like, man, I didn't really learn it. There's some base level professionalism course, corporate structure, and all that.
yeah,
But when it comes to just how you make money in the market,
yeah, yeah,
corporate America will not teach you that, man. And you got to get out of that structure. And then now you're in a wild world. You're like, oh man. And then not only that, but you can move a little bit faster with skill sets. So it's, if I talk to some of my corporate buddies now, some of the stuff I'm doing, they will have no clue how to do this. And also they're incentivized to not learn because let's say they got to a certain level and they're paid highly paid. It's
yeah,
almost like they only have a certain number of folks that can go to the same industry, same level job, but beyond that, it's going to be extremely difficult unless you're just one of the anointed ones to go up the ladder to CEO. But that's very rare, and it's they stuck at that lifestyle level, at that money level, because they can only go to so many jobs. Whereas once you become an entrepreneur,
yeah.
I'm like learning about AI. We didn't talk about it before, but I did deep dive on Facebook ads recently where literally I know like a lot of stuff now, how to get these things running. You probably see a
Nice.
lot more of my ads out there now because you're probably getting retargeted.
Hey, I'm
You
seeing them. I'm seeing them to the point where I was like, "You know what he could do?" And I was like it just kept hitting me, so I was like, "Man, it's working."
it's working. See, it's working. So I mean, that's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, this is how this stuff is supposed to work now. And I'm starting to see it. And I got a book out there. So just shameless plug, but I put it out there. Got my funnel going. So it's just like all these skills I would never have learned if I was in this block of ice. And going back to your point, is like being around the certain people and certain environments elevate your game, right? And take it to the next level. Whereas certain environments in places like corporate America, sometimes you get stuck. And as you
Yeah.
really realize, and then after a certain point, at a certain age, you just don't have the energy or time to want to learn those new skills.
Yeah, some people turn to fuddy-duddies, but not us, 'cause we stay young by, watching stuff like Avatar: The Last Airbender
Yep,
as
yep.
grown men.
Oh man, I got stories.
So wait a minute, I thought we were done talking about Avatar from last week. You said you watched it with your kids, wasn't that great, but, you wanna bring it up again?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about
Let's do
Avatar:
it,
The
I like
Last
it.
Airbender, the live action Netflix show. Number one, it just goes to show you how good the animated one was because me and the kids are starting to go back to watch the animated again. It was just like
Yeah,
me and my son. I think after his basketball game today, we actually started looking at some old videos of Avatar and looking at the voice actors, and then we started debating who's your favorite character and why. And so it's like Avatar storytelling is just so rich. That's why I say, okay, number one, it's nostalgia, right? It's been over 20 years. So a lot of this generation, grew up watching it, or now, like me, they have kids and they showed them the storytelling. And a lot of these folks are just new to this storytelling. I just remember Mr. Benja when I think it was one of the first ones we went to Comic Con and we were in line. I think I was in line for 7 hours or something. I think it was by myself. I don't know where you were, and I was just sitting there. We were just waiting in line to get in Hall H. And then the topic of Avatar came, and I think I had just recently watched it or watched it not too long ago.
okay.
And man, we spent about at least 2 hours talking about Avatar. And this was in what, 2000 and what, had to be what? I just got married in 2008, nine. And that was 10 years ago. People were like deep diving. Now imagine now, man, the levels of the depth that the Avatar has reached. So just to go on the show that some content is just everlasting and just increases in time, and Avatar is like that. So when you have a live action or a movie, crappy movie that came out, you're gonna see this bubble up of energy across the internet. And so I think that's why the discourse is, I don't know, have you noticed the discourse out there on social media about what people are saying?
So what I'm hearing is almost like people are getting tired of the knee jerk kind of, "Oh, it's the greatest thing ever. Oh, it's booty." And like with Avatar, it's, hey, check it out. I liked it. I thought it was good for this. As far as live action goes, it's great. I enjoyed stuff from the movie, and this is better than that. There's no need to call it a worthless pile. So what I'm saying is I'm getting a much broader range of whether they hated it or loved it.
You talking about the original or the new
This
live
this
action?
Netflix series, this new
Okay.
live action Netflix series. So I'm just hearing the talk on it. I'm like, okay, this is a little but I sense an evolution in the conversation, which makes my heart leap. Unlike the,
Didn't
you
know
know,
if you care, Mr. Benja.
unlike the Lucasfilm great fan base wars of 2018 after Last Jedi came out. But this
I'm so
conversation
hyped for the Acolyte, though. I hope the Acolyte comes out as
the
baller from Star Wars. I hope that comes out as good because, yeah, we need some good Star Wars stuff. But anyway,
as I said, Star Wars is like pizza to me. It's all good, even if it's bad.
anyway, it's an Avatar. Let's see. Yeah, I think so. Nostalgia hit. So I think that was my knee jerk reaction to your point. Me and the kids were watching the first episode, and we were just like, "Oh no!" It's like you take that first bite of pizza, and it doesn't go well. You're like, "Oh no, this is not good." But I think I was just reacting to just it was so beloved, right? It has
Mhm.
gotten so much more beloved over the last years. And even my kids and I were like, oh, I don't know, because the CGI was a little wonky, that casting, we had to settle in. But then what happens is, you start really, okay, I said, okay, let's just accept it. And then I said, okay, they got some of the themes right, which is really important with Avatar, right? The more mature themes about war,
Mhm.
about responsibility, about genocide, deep concepts that kids in a kid fashion, and it has some funny moments. So to me, I was okay, they're trying here. And then the casting at first was off, but once you get into it, you say, okay, I see why they cast this person. And one of the big things was powerful was the representation. Albert Kim, I guess he's shepherd this kind of storytelling. He's the showrunner. I forgot where he came from or what movies or TV shows he came from, but he really went all in. And I think we're seeing now there's a lot more representation in Hollywood from all types of actors, and especially recently within in the Asian community. He said the Fire Nation represents specific Southeast Asia, so Thailand and the Philippines. The Earth Kingdom was countries like China, Japan and Korea, and the Indian subcontinent. And so very purposeful in how they populated the different nations inside the avatar to represent. And the water nation is indigenous people, right? You're going to see a lot of Native Americans, right, in that role that of the water tribes.
Yeah.
So very powerful story to have that representation. And so that's something I definitely applaud because I think most of their voice actors were mostly white in the TV show, cartoon.
Okay. Oh, the cartoon. Let me ask you this: If you, when you watch a property, it's become love to you. You like it, you follow it, or whatever, and then you find out that it's supposedly about a certain political stance, social stance. It's got a certain message to it. Does that make you enjoy it more or less, or depending on if you agree with the message or not? But does that affect your viewing or feel of it a lot? The
Absolutely. I get an example, a perfect example. I mean, the kids talked about it too. We watched She-Ra, and the Princess of Power, right? I don't know if you remember that came out on Netflix a couple years back. So
yeah,
we
yeah,
watched all of it, and yeah, we liked it, but it was clearly agenda around, which is nothing wrong, but it was clearly agenda about acceptance of gay and lesbian lifestyles, right? Which is
yeah,
fine, but it was so obvious. It was like between her and Catcher, right? She-Ra and Catcher, right? Will they or won't they, right? Catcher knew what she wanted. She was confused. That's basically, and then at the end, they kissed. And so it's okay. This is so it's which is fine. As a parent, I don't have a problem talking to my kids about
the
you
messaging
need
was,
to know.
you mean, is that
Yeah, it was just like,
yeah,
why shoehorn this? It just let it
yeah,
happen
okay,
natural. It was like the whole thing of Catcher was that she was a jilted lover from the very beginning. So it was baked into the cake as opposed to organically evolving. And then you had
yeah,
things like I forgot the character of Bo, he had two dads. I was like,
yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
anyway, I digress. But yeah, so that's yeah, that I don't like that. Let it happen organically. I'm trying to think or Lightyear. Lightyear was the same way. They had the whole thing there.
You know what? I was some people it's weird, man. There's the way storytelling is, some people really look for that. They expect it in certain ways. And I'm just talking to more people about what they get from a story and what they don't care about in the story. And it's fascinating to me how much people really like there are a lot of people going into a movie looking for a lecture. They literally want a lecture with
Mm.
some costumes and dressing on it. And that's just not where I'm coming from. But I was like, because I was listening to a discussion on Starship Troopers, and I was like, oh, okay, sure, there's all this in it, but maybe they made this guy look crazy like this because of X, Y, and Z. Eh, yes, he does bear a striking resemblance to this guy, but I don't know how deep it went when. So I'm just like,
Yeah. You made me think of Don't Sip Your Juice while sitting in South Central. You remember that movie,
yeah,
that
yeah,
crazy parody movie?
yeah,
Message. Someone said something. Message.
yeah.
Yes.
Some people come
I
for that, man.
guess, man, to go, that's what school's for, man, and books. I don't know why people need to go see that in their entertainment. But to me, I like movies, not so much a message movies, but just more of a experience. I don't like there's this new Hulu show or not Hulu or FX show called Shogun. They're gonna take you to feudal Japan. I've never
Right,
lived in
right.
feudal Japan. So now they're gonna give you a taste of that. And that's what I like to see in my entertainment. Entertaining story, but take me to a place and help me understand the culture. That is exciting to me, but not a moral lesson stance. When you say message or lesson, it's like you're taking a stance. So basically, I believe people should be like this, and it's I don't want to be dictated to, right? Show me, don't tell me, right? Show me why this may be a better way of living, right? As opposed to another way. I don't know. It's that show versus tell, I think.
Message. Really quick, you want to get in some AI talk?
Sure.
So, NVIDIA CEO came out. I shouldn't say came out. NVIDIA's CEO. I said came out in another segment, and I was like, that just sounds weird. let me switch that to spoke about or made a statement on or something because I don't know. Anyway, NVIDIA CEO predicts the death of coding. Jensen Hong says AI will do the work, so kids don't need to learn. It's the article from Tech Radar. And I actually believe the guy. What do you think?
I would too, Mr. Benja. If you see the discourse, the freak out that happened over Sora. Is it Sora? That's how I pronounce it.
I guess
I said Sora. I said Soros last time. So, the hedge fund, George Soros, hedge fund manager, came after me. Don't ever talk about my name again. So, anyway, Sora, the AI text to video feature came out. And obviously, we were talking about all these co-pilot, these assist, these code assist projects that if you're writing code, they pretty much write everything for you. I would agree, Mr. Benja. It does seem like that is not becoming the most useful skill. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. You remember when we were growing up, or even right after you were in the midst of it, and I started getting into it. You gotta learn coding. That's the new language. It's like that and Mandarin, right? You have to learn those two things if you want to survive in the new millennial, right? Oh crap, I don't know
yeah,
Mandarin. Oh no, I'm not gonna get a job. These kids are like, it's funny. It's like what we worried about is no longer being worried about. And so I would agree, Mr. Benja. I think when you see the power of ChatGPT and what it can do, Claude and all these other whatever AI that Google's going to create or rename from Bard to Gemini,
yeah,
you can see the power really resides in how you think about how you like. We had a talk about this before about some idea I have. I have to think on how I'm going to, you know, create the messaging around what I'm looking for ChatGPT to get what I want consistently. So I think that's a more powerful, and that's what coding was anyway. It's just
yeah,
because I think there's always three things in it. This is my insight. There's the tool set, what tools you need to do. So coding, you have to have your environment, you need to know what language and all that stuff. So that's a level of knowing. Then there's a skill. Do you know how to create if then loops? Can you set up data structures and stuff like that? And then there's a mindset is okay, what am I doing with this anyway? What am I building toward? It's not, I
yeah.
don't have these skills if I don't have a vision of I want to build an app to do that. And so you have to have all three in line. Now with ChatGPT can get rid of two of them. Guess what? Now you really focused on the mindset of what you really want. And so I
Yeah.
think that is where we need to go.
So what are those three things again for the people at home?
I'm just dropping nuggets, man. That's what happens when you listen to long form podcasts. Mindset, skill set, and tool set.
Yep,
And
I
shout
like
out to Myron Golden. I got that from him. So it wasn't a Theo original. I wish it was. I could make it mine if I switch it up, but I give him a shout out.
it. Now you need a little brand banner. Theo original. Hey everybody. Boom. Knowledge. Drop knowledge and then message. Oh gosh. So good.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Mr. Benja? Do you feel that as one who went all in on programming for years, what do you feel some kind of way about that?
Yeah, man. People are finished. You think I don't do it now? So when we were
We're
in
done. It's done, son. Wrap it up. Human race. It's a wrap.
so in in the 2000s, I think I realized at some point where I was like, okay, do I go heavier into coding or other stuff? And it was like there were the artists and the programmers. You have artists, programmers, and designers, just like the trifecta of game development. So there was the artists and the programmers, and I'm sitting here watching artists make stuff, and I'm like, yeah, production art. I don't know about that business, man. I just don't know about it. Then I looked over at because it's like Russian kids who were like 12 and 15 were making illustrations that were looking like college graduates. I don't know what kind of learning programs they're doing and whatever gulags in Russia that who got set up. It's work that Photoshop into Illustrator. Whoopsh. I don't know, but their stuff was looking really good, and I'm like, I don't know if I can't go too far down that route. Programming, same thing. It's I don't know. I can't go too far down that route. It's just crazy. I ended up looking at code with a bunch of comments in it that weren't in English, and I was like showing up on GitHub. It's okay. I don't even know if I want to deal with this. And then that's when I started getting into more of the MBS, marketing, branding, sales side of things.
I never heard that before. That's a whole acronym.
That's one that I created.
Okay. Benjamin Original.
Yes. Is it more BS or is it marketing, branding, and sales?
I use that on a podcast, right? This is
Yeah.
not first time you say, okay.
Yes, I have it in a notebook somewhere. MBS. I thought I was brilliant for that one. I need to do a late night commercial of the whole thing. But yeah, that's when I started going into I saw the value of social media, branding. At one point, I was at work and I realized I started doing a deep dive, yes, at work, into the Facebook tools. And I'm like, holy crap, Zuckerberg is trying to take over the world. And I just realized all the tools. And I was like, okay, let me start going into the marketing, sales, branding side of things. And yeah, I saw the easy automation. I saw the people coming over from overseas, the outsourcing. I saw the number of tools getting developed. And I was like, yeah, people are, in so many words, done. And now with AI, it's gladly throw AI work at any problem now and just figure out a way to integrate it, to set up processes that are based on it to from whatever end of development. And I don't see how a lot of people, at least in the mid range, are going to survive this. Like the people on the very bottoms do whatever, people on the very top do whatever. That mid range is getting blown out.
I think that's what I was arguing. I think that mid range is that corporate America person, right? Like in their ways, just mid level manager or whatever, making six figures. But as soon as that job is gone, bruh, because they coming hard, man.
Yeah.
It's coming hard for those jobs, man. Because you're right. I'm looking at once after you and I had a conversation, I said, okay, let me get back into Chat GPT and just AI in general. And so I'm starting using the brainstorm more. I'm supposed to go out and talk to some investors. I'm starting using that to help me with that. It can do competitive research now. I didn't even had this 18 months ago when I was started doing trying to
Yeah.
talk to investors. It's like, hey a minute, I could do all this now. And don't even get into the video stuff I can start using. Like, how can I leverage AI to get more videos out and do stuff? So it's not now my brain is just like exploding with just man, dude, I could just
Possibilities.
be dude, man. Every day it's like I write down every day $1 million idea. And
Nice.
it's like easy. It's so easy now because every time any market, any idea is I can do it because of the tools that we have now. To your point, it's funny. We'll cover this briefly as two woke bros. One thing that's funny to me, two
Uh-oh.
two woke bros, is funny to me is the AI tools, even though they're good, they still have a little twinge of some otherness in there. And Benja, did you
Yeah.
see that fiasco with Google and Gemini recently?
Comedy. That's all I gotta say, bro. That
Do you wanna talk about
had me
what they
laughing.
did? Do you talk about what they did?
Why you gotta make me the guy who gets the soundbite and gets canceled?
Flip the script. They
All
call me
right.
CEO for a reason.
Throw the crazy creative guy out there. He'll do it. He'll say anything. Yeah. So I'll just read this little quote here. Google shares fell by 4.5% Monday after prominent investors in Silicon Valley attacked the company for releasing an artificial intelligence powered image generator that sometimes refused to generate images of white people and gave historically inaccurate results, such as showing images of racially diverse Nazis. Yeah, this thing became a meme so fast and it didn't do anything for the quote unquote woke agenda and actually probably bolstered things from the anti woke agenda. I'm wondering how this got out actually, because what's happening is somebody has decided, okay, if we let stuff go normally and we turn our AI on, then it seems like it's a little racist or it picks up a lot on a lot of the negativity coming from the right side of things. In this case, it could be the left side too, but in the case that people are pointing out, it's being too diverse. So imagine asking for, I'd like a picture of 1950s Norwegians all sitting in the native town of whatever. And it'll throw a chubby Asian guy in there, an old black lady, and you're like, what? This is not realistic at all. What are you doing? And so people accused it of rewriting history and this can't be allowed and Google's stupid. And then, yeah, Google turned it off and was like, sorry, we'll be back in a few days. Check with me later.
It's just a comedy of errors for Google, who's supposed to be the creator of the whole concept of transformers and what makes ChatGPT possible is obviously this whole incident with the offensive nature of the of what they did. One of the things they said they did is like you wanted to see white people would not give you white people images
Mhm.
if people who are in Sweden or something like that are majority are white people, but they would give you black looking Swedes, which is interesting. Or they would create different versions of Nazis and different demographics. And so that was weird. So it's almost and then we talked about the fiasco when they had Bard launch, when they couldn't had some issues with the tool when it first launched. So it's just like comedy of errors for Google. I don't know what's going on there, man. And it's but I agree. If we get back into the whole angle that people are going after, this is the sentiment that these social media tools are against the right and have a liberal agenda. And so anytime that these tools display that, the right's going to jump right on that because it bolsters their opinion and their viewpoint.
Mhm.
And so then obviously someone's going to say, we have an AI that's this perfectly right. But how many times have you seen social media things, tools, and all that be so incredibly offensive and all that? People get upset. No one's like trying to take down Twitter, but maybe they can't because of Elon. But it's
Yeah.
just weird, man, to see how Google is just making all these comedy of errors from a business standpoint. That's the part I don't get. And then from the social cultural representation thing of it all, I think it's definitely just a target on these tools. They got to realize, man, we're in a different environment. You got to be extremely careful how you present these tools.
Yeah, I actually whipped out Gemini right now just to see if I don't know, sometimes when it's almost a marketing play where they push something too far
Mhm.
and then they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, we just wanted to gauge everybody's reactions. Yeah, we tuned down. Okay, we tuned it down a little. You can try it tomorrow." It's been several days now since this came out, and I asked it to create me a picture of a woke bro. And it says, "We are working to improve Gemini's ability to generate images of people. We expect this feature to return soon and will notify you and release updates when it does." I'm like, okay. So I tried to throw it some heat when I said, create a picture of a woke bro. And then I was like, yeah, create an image of a football player standing on top of a car. This seems like one of those generic things an AI would usually provide. And it said, nope, we're not displaying any people.
Oh my
So
goodness.
they just
This is
took people
crazy.
out of the equation entirely, which means this was a blatant and gross mistake. There was no strategy here. It's just like they broke it.
Sheesh, man. Like I said, it's whereas you look at OpenAI and what they're doing is methodical, right? They're talking about obviously they reached ChatGPT as a test case and it blew up. And the biggest thing, the Sora, right? We talked about that where they released that texted video and Hollywood is basically going crazy. Tyler Perry is saying he no longer wants to invest millions of dollars into new studios because AI is going to replace all that. OpenAI is very intentional about what they're doing, and Google seems haphazard, and that's unfortunate. And like I said, I think we'll talk more about this AI stuff, Mr. Benji. I think we're very curious how it's going to truly transform. I don't think it's always going to be positive, Mr. Benji. I don't think it's going to be positive.
Hey man, AI is taking jobs, killing people, but I'm not sure it's always going to be positive. That's just how that sounded to me. I'm sorry.
Guess what, guys? On that note, we try to keep it light here as the end of the world is approaching. The AI dominance, robot overlords are coming. Mr. Benjamin, man, this is always a pleasure talking to you. Hey, everyone, if you like the podcast, please subscribe and comment at Show versus Business on X, YouTube, and Instagram. Listen to us at Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Go check us out on our website at Show versus Business. All right, Mr. Benja, have a good one.
Peace.
Yip, yip.